Help me welcome Sabyasachi Sengupta.
Okay. Dear friends, I was barely 5 or 6 years old when my father saw me one day when he came home at 10 in the evening that I was sitting and solving complicated maths problem. I already was familiar with addition, subtraction, and he thought he saw a scientist in me. A scientist at the age of 5 and 6 can crack complex maths problem, addition, subtraction, and he was very pleased. For the next few days, whenever he came home, he saw me with my book and a notebook, and I'm solving complex maths problems. And he was very, very proud that his son is on the right path on being a scientist or a mathematician. After a couple of months, he was very curious to see my progress, and he opened the book and he saw the first 10 pages of the book was actually complex maths problem for a 5-year-old. Maths, subtraction. From the 11th page, there were cartoons drawn. Cartoons of Tintin, cartoons of all the cartoons I watched, or trees, leaves, plants. My father was very disappointed, like any other father. And he thought his dream to have his son a scientist or a mathematician is completely squashed. But my father is also a very, very positive person, and something I think I have inherited from him, positivity. At that same time, he looked at those cartoons and he forgot disappointment, and he saw the Michelangelo in me. And he thought, my son is so creative, he draws so well, I'm going to put him to a drawing class and he can excel and become the best painter in India. Who knows, before you know, he's painting the Sistine Chapel or something comparable, and he becomes a world champion painter. Puts me to a drawing school. Every Sunday 9 a.m. I used to go there. I went there for 2 months. I enjoyed. I did a lot of drawing. Starting from the 3rd month, my father got a call from the drawing school saying that, yeah, your son does not really have a lot of interest in drawing. He does his thing, and then in the corner there's a dance school next door, and he is practicing shadow dancing against the music. He's much more interested in the dance than the drawing. Yet again, I broke my father's dream to see me as a world champion painter. But as I said, my father is a positive person, and this time he saw the Michael Jackson in me. He was convinced that his son can become a world champion dancer, and he switched the rooms from the drawing class. He put me to the dancing class, and I started dancing there. 3 months later, I stopped going because I didn't like it too. I was bored, and when my father asked me, why aren't you going to do the dance classes, I thought you really liked it. You know what I told him? I have maths problem to solve. And this time my father could not hold his positivity anymore, and he broke down. And he told me, son, if you keep doing like this, you know what you'll be? You'll be a jack of all trades, master of none. A jack of all trades, master of none. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a phrase, that is a quote that I have heard in my life from the age of 5 till 29 that I am today. Everywhere I went, everybody has told me time and again, you will be a jack of all trades and master of none. Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
I still don't know if that phrase is a positive or is a negative. How many of you in this audience think it's actually a positive statement to make when you say somebody a jack of all trades? And how many think it's a negative? 50-50.
Yeah.
When your father calls you a jack of all trades, there is a certain amount of negativity, there is certain amount of probably positivity, and there is a lot of love in it. But ladies and gentlemen, when your boss calls you a jack of all trades, there is 100% negativity to it, and there is no two-way about it. Yes, and even at work, I get that a lot of times. I completed my studies, I did economics, and I'm currently working at a bank. When I see my contemporaries and my peers really interested into the markets, reading the business dailies, following the market, what's going up, what's going down, studying for CFA or FRM, all these complex financial courses, I go home in the evening and I decided to join this club called Toastmasters. When people at work hear that you are doing Toastmasters, what is it? Do you make bread, toast? What is it all about? A lot of people say it's a waste of time. And some people even told me, you're now adult, it's time enough that you become serious in life and you start focusing. Focusing. Because I tried to do two things. I even tried a third thing. I, at some point, decided to join a fencing class. Ladies and gentlemen, doing three things at one time gives me the most pleasure. There is one that ensures that I have an income by which I can pay my rent. I can have a bread and butter. A second job or a hobby that ensures that I do something that's very, very close to my heart, and that is as good as a second job. And then I do a third thing that is completely wacky, completely out of the way, but it quenches my creative thirst. And that, I call a term for it. You know what I call it? Let me show you. I call it the triangle theory. Three things at one time. Now, the disadvantage of this is you don't always prepare, and that's why I'm looking at the notes. The main thing that this triangle theory does to you is it reduces your stress. If you get stressed in one particular aspect of your life, you can use the energy or the positivity that you get from the other two and bring it to the life. You are always creative in all of the three because you get creative ideas from the diverse things that you're doing. Who would you call a good juggler? One who juggles one ball in the air? Or two? Or three? Three. Why I say not four? Because three is a perfect number. And that's why the triangle theory, as I call it. Now, sorry? Now, few items I noticed are golden rules to have this triangle theory. Because today I want to encourage you to become the jack of all trades. Being a jack of all trades does not mean that you are a master of none. You can still be an expert. You can still be a pioneer in your field. But that should not stop you from trying something different that is close to your heart. That should not stop you from pursuing an active hobby that is also close to your heart. Being good in three things does not mean that you cannot have excellence in more than one thing. It's a myth that to have excellence in one field, you need to have undivided attention to that one particular thing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, is a complete myth. Some golden rules, if you are interested to follow this triangle theory. Number one, when you have the second job or the hobby, the strong hobby that you feel passionate about, do not expect to be a source of income immediately. Treat it as a hobby for a good amount of time. The second job is like that small plant. You need to water it, you need to take care of it, you need to shelter it, you need to put it in the sun. It will have its fruit, but it will take its time. So don't lose patience and keep trying that. The best thing to be more involved in it is try to get into the more administrative part of that hobby. If you're part of a club, part of a community, try to be in the forefront of it than being just part of it. That will give you the exposure and the push that you need to make this strong hobby into almost a second job. The second thing is, don't talk about the second and third, talk about your hobby, the two hobbies that you're pursuing at your first job. I get that as a criticism sometimes at work, that people say, your focus is divided. Your attention is all over the place. And that is a work or social place is in my opinion a place. They will look for Achilles heel, where your weak spot is. And if you have too many good spots, one of them becomes your weakness. So when you are actually at the job, do not talk about your hobby or what you want to do outside work. The third hobby that I mentioned, the second hobby which I said, which quenches your creative thirst, I personally like to change it in every 1 year. Otherwise, it also becomes very heavy. Today, I'm learning fencing. A year from now, I'm sure I'll learn drawing. Who knows, 2 years from now, I will learn tap dancing. But keep changing that so that that hobby does not become repetitive or like a second job. Keep changing it. Now, I have already told you how you can do it. I have also listed 3 advantages that I see in my life why this pursuing the triangle theory helps. Number 1. Where is that? Risk. Number 1, risk. We live in a time where stability is a myth. There is nobody who can call himself that I have a stable job or I am established. We live in a times of crisis and it's going to stay for another, I don't know how long. We are living in an economic turbulent times where banking on a job or work from one particular sector can be extremely challenging. You don't know, I work for a bank and I cannot tell you with guarantee that 40 years from now, the conventional banking systems or the banks that we see today will be there or not. Who knew Lehman Brothers would go bankrupt in 2008? I was an employee of Lehman Brothers when it got bankrupt. I learned my lesson the harder way. If you have a hobby that you pursue with passion and it is like a second job, ladies and gentlemen, if you face career crisis at a mature age in your life, when you're not young enough to learn new things or adapt to changes, you can use that hobby to become your job. You can do freelancing. You can earn money and support your family through that hobby that you've nurtured for many years and now is giving you the dividend that it needed. Networking. My studies and my work makes me meet only one kind of work. How boring can it be to meet people who are either talking about a Brexit or what Mario Draghi is going to do or if the euro is going to stay another 10 years or not. Sometimes you don't want to have those kind of discussions. You want to talk about other things like movies or public speaking or about a friend who is reinventing his passion for music. These are the kind of people you will not meet if you are doing one particular kind of work. Your network, your people you know will become one kind. And that, in my opinion, is not advisable. The third and the biggest advantage is, and I can quote my own self, at work, we are nerdy bankers who sit behind the desk and do work all day. But the moment there is a scope to do some presentation or say there is a last minute presentation that you need to do, my colleagues panic. They have all the knowledge, they have all the material, but they panic to come in front of an audience. And they say, we can't do it in the last moment. Any ideas who steps forward and says, let me do the presentation?
No idea.
Exactly. You know what that means? From being a jack of all trades, you become the joker. The joker in the pack of cards. The joker who can be used, reused in times of crisis because you have knowledge and experience that your colleagues and peers don't have because they are not investing their time and attention into diverse things like you are doing. You become the joker of all trades. To conclude, I'm not sure how we're doing with the time. To conclude, I would like to say is try the triangle theory, try 3 things together at the same time, try to prioritize, and the prioritization can be very simple. What I do is 40 hours is my working contract, I spend 10 hours into my hobby, which can be a second job. 10 hours means 3 hours of 2 evenings, and in weekend 3 hours, and 2 hours of the second hobby, which is fencing, which I'm taking. Spend that time, you will have enough time to rest, relax, socialize, drink. But try the triangle theory and you won't be you will be a jack of all trades, but you will be master of fun. And ladies and gentlemen, never be scared to try new things, because if you try new things, if you win, you can lead. If you lose, you can guide.